Hello and welcome to the Heart Church podcast. My name is Dan Cronin. I co-lead Heart Church alongside my wife, Becky Cronin. Heart Church is a church plant into Morecambe in Lancashire in the UK, where we are launching in autumn 2020. We're currently building our launch team and support partners at the moment. And we are on the journey, and we believe God is calling us to be a church that sees Morecambe and beyond transformed, both spiritually, economically, and socially. And I encourage you, if you've not already checked it out, check out our first podcast on our vision and values, where we go through, where I explain and what I shared at our first info and prayer night, where I share what we believe God is calling us to be as a church. I encourage you to subscribe, to like, to rate our podcast on whatever platform you're listening to us on. It helps on the algorithms and everything else. It helps other people hear what God is doing amongst us here in Morecambe. So I thought what I would do today on this podcast is just share kind of our journey of how we got to where we are. How did we get to a place where we're sort of just over or just under a year away from launching a brand new church in the heart of Morecambe. So rewind back to January 2019. I was in a meeting with another Free Methodist pastor, and they were sharing some of the heart that they have for their church and what they were exploring. And as I was in that room, they were talking about Morecambe, and you know, God just started to sort of say, maybe this is something for you. This is something that you and Becky need to be getting involved with, not just from a distance and supporting, but maybe this is something for you to be heading up. And so after that, I sort of went away, and I was a bit confused. We've been at Heysham Free Methodist Church. I've been on staff now for coming up to 8 years, and I'm the associate pastor there. And we've been loving life there. It's comfortable. Things are going really well. The church has been growing. Some of the ministries we're involved in have been thriving as well. It's been really encouraging, lots of opportunities, and it's it feels like home. It's family for us. And we weren't looking to leave. We were at a point as a church where we were starting to grow beyond the space that we have on a Sunday, and so we were wondering, we were looking towards going to 2 services on a Sunday morning, and so there was lots going on, and I was obviously involved at a leadership level with all of that. And so it didn't seem to make sense in lots of ways. But we thought, well, if it is God, we need to pray this through. And if it is God, then we need to know. So following that, we spent a lot of time, Becky and I shared a lot with Becky, and spent a lot of time in prayer going, God, is this right? Is this you? Because if it's not you, we don't want to step into this. But if it is you, then we've got to be obedient to that. Anyway, for the following sort of weekend and the following week, I just really spent God speaking to me so much, especially through the story in Genesis of reopening Jacob's wells. And there's previously been a Free Methodist church in Morecambe as well, and it wasn't that we were coming to replicate what they'd been doing, but God was just sort of speaking to me through that, and in loads of other ways through just what I was journeying through. I'm doing the Bible in a year, and God really spoke to me through that, the readings that were planned for that time. But for me, it was one of those, like, if we're going to do this, we're doing this as a family. So, God, you've got to speak to Becky. I need to know, I don't want to get for you down the line in the hard graft of planting a church, and Becky being like, well, I didn't hear from God. We sort of followed you, and in lots of ways, Becky would have done that. Becky would have gone with me, but at the same time, we need to know it was God together. And so we're praying it through, and I was saying, God, look, I'm sure, but I need you to speak to Becky. But I also said to God, look, I want you to speak to someone from outside of our situation. And I'm currently studying theology, and so on that particular week I was on an intensive down in Manchester, which was going to uni every single day, which was actually ended up being a 2-hour round trip every single day to Manchester. Probably more than that. And so I was listening to podcasts. I was I was really just keen into what God was trying to say, and I wanted to hear what God's voice was on it. But I was really just seeking God's please. Like, if this is you, I'm convinced now. But God, speak to Becky, speak to someone outside our situation. And within that week, God did give confirmation to Becky, and also actually spoke to, was already speaking to someone outside of our situation about moving to our area to support me and Becky, which in our current context didn't make sense, but in the context of part of the church, it was incredible, really. And so that was for us confirmation. Now, our challenge was obviously, how do we then process that? We're obviously massively involved in church. I'm a staff there, and this wasn't necessarily on our agenda as a leadership. We weren't journeying this route necessarily. And so I went to our lead pastor, Mark, and just sort of shared, look, those kind of are out of the blue, but this is what we're sensing God calling us to. And so following that, there was lots of conversations with our leadership team. How is this something that we get involved in? Is it something that we just sort of release Ed and Becky into? And there was so much conversation. Obviously, Morecambe actually is only about 5 miles up the road in terms of where we're looking to plant, if that. So we're not talking moving very far, but it is kind of another distinct town in lots of ways as well. So much process goes on, loads of leadership team meetings, so much conversations eventually start within the church, sort of saying, look, I know we were going in one direction towards 2 services, but Dan and Becky, and we agree with it, God is calling them to plant into Morecambe. And so we feel we've got, and basically leadership said, we've got to lay aside for now, moving to 2 services, and we've got to process this through the church plan. And there was obviously lots of discussion on what does support actually look like for the church. How do we make sure that Heysham continues to thrive, but also that we give the support of sending Dan and Becky as some of our own who've been in our church for so many years. And that process wasn't easy. It took many meetings. It took a lot of vulnerable, challenging conversations at times. But basically where we ended up landing was that following lots of consultation with the church, that Heysham would then support us financially. They would give us covering in terms of governance and charity, and they would support us and partner with us for 3 years, our first 3 years after we launch on a Sunday. And that's just been an incredible journey. And there have been ups and downs in that. I don't want to try and paint this picture. Oh yeah, we said to the church, look, and this is what God's calling us to do, and instantly said, yeah, great, crack on. It wasn't like that at all. It has been hard, but actually, and frustrating, if I'm honest, at times for me, because I'm someone who likes to just get on with stuff. I sometimes want to sort of, I've heard from God, and I should do it straight away. And there are times to do that, but actually, in this has been right in sort of process and stuff well, and actually. Just biding time and being patient and working it through has actually meant we've got an amazing level of support from Heysham, and that's so great that we can leave when we sort of step out and launch on such good terms. But following that, it's then sort of like, it took quite a few months to sort of process that through. It's like, well, what do we do next? Like, we've never planted a church before. It's been a long time since the church has been planted out of Heysham. Like, what do we do? Like. So we started sort of processing, like making plans and working through it, and God continued to speak to us and started calling us, like, dream bigger, start putting stuff in place now. And so we've started to do that, and we've had conversations with some of our national leaders who in the Free Methodist Church who've planted quite a few churches, and now I'm part of a support network of other church planters within the Free Methodist Church. And if I'm honest, there are times when I'm like, God, like, could we have done this at another point? Could we not have set stuff up better? Could we not have slowed it down a bit? Or could we not wait for a couple of years? Like, I'm in the middle of... So I'm going into my 3rd year of studying a degree. I'm doing it part-time. So I've actually got 2 more years of a degree, which actually means when we launch in autumn 2020, in that first year, I'll need to write a dissertation. We're sort of like... So much going on. Heysham, we're comfortable there. Like, can we not have just finished off my degree, gone through that process, and then started? Life would have been easier that way. But we sense God was saying to go. And then you get to sort of the questions of finance, and you get to sort of the question like, who's our team going to be, and what's it going to look like? What's our venue going to be? How's it going to all work? How are we going to gather these people? And sometimes you even get this like kind of imposter syndrome when like, I shouldn't be here. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, am I like too young? Am I qualified enough? Are people gonna follow me in terms of and follow Jesus in that as well? And actually, it's sort of been just trusting God, and it's just been so encouraging as people have started to say, yeah, we want in from different places, different churches, where different people have sort of have got a real heart for Morecambe, and gradually there'll be people, I'm sure, from Heysham that will start showing more significant interest. But also financially, we have no money in our budget, and Heysham have blessed us. They're giving me time one day a week to sort of plough into the church front as we run up to launch. But there's not necessarily a budget from Heysham. And then one Sunday, our treasurer at Heysham comes, look, someone's given £1,000 to help with a church plan. And then a friend of mine, Dan and Holly Belshaw at Light Church in Kirkham, they say, look, we want to pay for all your branding, and they give us a gift to pay for all of our branding. And stuff like that, where you're like, how are we going to afford to do this? How can we make sure we do it right? We want to do things well. But actually, just provision's been incredible. Then we get to our first info night, and it costs money to get to the point where we've got the signage and the branding and everything at that place where we were. And then we've got the venue costs and everything else. Now, we've got a cracking deal with the high school we're meeting in, and they've been amazing support. But however, everything costs money, doesn't it? And so we're starting to work through that finance quite quickly. And then on that night, like nearly £600 is given. And then we get another email from someone who wasn't able to be at the info night, but is looking to be part of the launch team. Goes, like, sounds amazing, so exciting what's gone on the info night. We want to be there next time. Is there a way we can give? And just God's provision through it. And we're just there like, God, we know what we need to do. There's so much finance, and we start looking at sort of our launch costs, and we know there's sort of thousands of pounds worth of equipment and stuff we need to buy. We borrowed loads of stuff from Heysham for the info night, but we need to buy all that stuff for ourselves for when we launch, like sound equipment and so much, and kids equipment, all the stuff that we need. Like, there's so much finance that's needed. Then currently I'm full-time employed by church. I don't get any finance in terms of my study because I don't get any sort of maintenance loan. I just get my tuition fees paid by student loan. So like, how are we going to finance this in terms of salary? Am I going to be able to continue to be fully employed by Heart Church when we launch? Or are we going to have to think of different ways of working this if the finance isn't there? And we're looking, our first year budgets, we're talking like 50 plus K to provide salary, to get the launch costs involved. And like, where's this going to come from? And God has been just like saying, just trust in me. And there's been prophetic words given to us. There's been incidents where we were just saying stuff at the info night that God had been sort of putting on our hearts, and it resonated so clearly and evidently with people that were there. And so there's just this momentum that's now being built, I suppose. And it's proper encouraging. Still, like, when people say, how are you feeling about it? I'm excited but scared. Like, and for me, that's an awesome place to be. It's not a comfortable place to be, but it's an awesome place to be, because actually, when we step into places and we're nervous and we're scared, but we know that God's called us there, it's when we continue to trust in Him. We're not doing it in our own strength. And that's where we want to be, where we go big or we go bust in what we're doing. And this is risky, this isn't easy, but it's so exciting. Like, I can't wait to see what God is going to do. And we want to invite as many people who want to join us on that journey to be part of it. Now, it might be for you that you just want to sort of lurk and listen in from a distance, and you just want to listen to our podcast, and that's awesome. And we're going to continue to break down some of our visions and our values throughout our podcast. We'll continue to keep you on the journey if that's for you. But you may actually want to get involved. You may be thinking, I want to pray for these guys. Like, they're stepping out and I want to pray for them. You can go to our website, weareheartchurch.co.uk, weareheartchurch.co.uk, and you can sign up to be a prayer partner. You may want to donate. You may want to donate financially. You may think, God's calling me to give into this financially. And that will bless us so much. And we know that God blesses those who give as well. So if you want to do that, again, you can go to our website. Our bank details are on there. Or you can get in touch with us. And we'd love to get to know you more. And you can gift aid that as well, if you're in the UK and you're a taxpayer. Or you may be thinking, look, right, I don't really know Morecambe. Or I do know Morecambe. And I want to get involved, and I want to be part of Heart Church from the launch. And again, we'd love to grab a coffee with you, love to connect with you more. So do get in touch with us. Do subscribe. Do like us and review us on all the different Apple and Spotify and all the different podcasts, wherever you're listening to this podcast. But also do like and follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. We are Heart Church. We'd love to connect with you more. I want to just say thanks so much for listening. Like, I don't even know where I've gone with this, and we're like 15 minutes in, and if you're still with us, thank you so much. But do check us out. We're going to hopefully, I say this tentatively, I'm hoping to podcast at least once a week. Now, that may vary depending on what's going on with uni and church and family and everything else that's going on. But we want to keep people on a journey. We want to journey with you as well. And so I love to hear your comments. I love to hear your feedback. I love to hear if God's speaking to you in any way. So yeah, my name's been Dan Cronin. You've been listening to the Heart Church podcast. Like, subscribe, review, comment, get in touch. We are heartchurch.co.uk. We are Heart Church on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks so much for listening.